Hello everyone, welcome to this live project demo of multi-cloud data transfer with AWS and GCP. I'm excited to be doing this multi-cloud project with you all today, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We don't assume any GCP knowledge for this one. I know we've been doing a couple of AWS projects before. So today, let's get ready to just transfer some data, get started with multi-cloud, and learn a bit about GCP cloud storage along the way. So if you're new to the concept of multi-cloud, don't you worry. We got this covered. We're going to take about 60 minutes to do this project today, and the difficulty is mildly spicy because you'll be learning a new cloud service provider, which is Google Cloud Platform. But other than that, I think this project is totally doable. I think you and I are going to have a great time. So to everyone that's here today, thank you so much for joining. Come say hi in the chat. I love to say hi back. And let me know what you think about multi-cloud. Is this something that you've been wanting to do? Is this your very first time touching Google Cloud Platform? I'm excited for you. Hey, oh my gosh, stop. We've got our recurring characters today. I think of you guys as my favorite recurring characters. You guys are so sweet. Thanks for stopping by. Gangadas here saying hello. H, hi Natasha and everyone. Nice to see you all. H, are you a night owl? I feel like we've been catching up at this is pretty late in Italy now, isn't it? So thanks so much for spending the time. All right. So today we're going to do a project on multi-cloud data transfer with AWS and Google Cloud Platform, also called GCP. So I'm going to call GCP from now on. I'm already training you. So more and more engineering teams are spreading their resources across different cloud providers. And this has become pretty big, I'd say. In the last 2 years, even longer than that, multi-cloud has become this growing preference so that you're not always reliant on one cloud service provider. This concept of redundancy is huge in cloud. We always learn about how, if you have things across multiple regions, it protects you in case one region goes down. And now teams are applying that across cloud service providers too. Oh yeah, let's have multiple cloud service providers. So if one provider is going down or one provider decides to, change their pricing or do something that makes it a less viable option, we can easily switch to the other one because we've already set up our architecture to make the most out of both. So this concept of giving you better redundancy, avoiding getting locked into one vendor, and saving money, there's some great reasons for choosing multi-cloud. So in this hands-on project, we're going to learn exactly how to move data smoothly between S3 and Google Cloud Storage as a little intro to multi-cloud. Okay, so if you're new to that concept of multi-cloud, in short, multi-cloud just basically means architecture that uses more than one cloud service provider. You're no longer just AWS only. You're now also using GCP. You could be using Azure too. You could be using Alibaba Cloud. So lots of different options there. Okay, so here's a little diagram of what we're about to do. Can you tell what this is going to be about? I feel like it's actually a very fun exercise to look at a architecture diagram like this one and think, ooh, what do you think we're about to do today? What services are we going to be using today? So I'm going to give us a few moments to look at this diagram together. Oh my goodness, in the meantime, it's 2:30 a.m. here. I woke up for the session. I'm so touched. Well, thank you so much. And good on you for waking up early, saying yeah, I'm gonna learn, committing to it, showing up week after week. That's impressive, incredibly impressive. All right, so in today's project, here are the 4 steps we're gonna do. So we're first gonna, actually let me scroll down and show it here so we can see both at the same time. 2 monitors coming in clutch. Okay, so in today's project, we're first going to set up and configure AWS S3. So we have a storage solution over here, and we're gonna store some data in there. And then we're gonna say, hey, it would be great if we can back up this data using a storage location with another cloud service provider. And we're gonna be picking GCP today. So we've got GCP with its own kind of version of S3. And that one is called, so instead of S3, we're gonna call this GCS, which actually stands for GCP Cloud Storage. it's so confusing because I'm like GCP and then GCS, but GCS is the storage solution. Okay, so we've got S3 here, we've got GCS over here, and then we're going to want to back up data from S3 over to GCS. How are we going to do this? Luckily, there is another cloud service called Google Cloud's Storage Transfer Service over here that's going to help make this backup very, very, very easy. We're going to use this service to say, hey, the source of our data is in S3. The destination where we want to transfer data to is over in GCS. Can we please set this up? And Google Storage Transfer will be very happy to do that. It's going to grab the data from here. It's going to chuck it in here as well. But what it's going to need in order to grab the data in here is the permission to access your AWS account and your AWS services. Otherwise, Google Storage Transfer can just walk into your account and just say, I'm going to seize your things and just run away with it. We're going to need to provide it the permission to do so. And that's where this IAM role is going to come through. Okay, so in a step-by-step kind of guide, kind of version of this explanation, number one, let's set this one up. Let's put some data inside S3. Number two, let's set this one up. Let's set up Google Storage Transfer, and that also requires us creating our GCP account. Okay, so number one, bucket. Number two, we need to set up our GCP account. Number three, we need to set up Google Storage Transfer, set this one as the source. Number four, we're going to say, oh, we actually need permissions. We need to give permission to Google Storage Transfer. And then number five, we're going to say, okay, permissions given. Let's set up our destination bucket inside GCP and then just watch this run very, very smoothly. Okay, so let's dive into it today, team. All right, so we're going to use the high-touch guide, and this gives us some step-by-step guidance. But if you're ready for less guidance, you've got the low-touch mode or the no-touch mode, where you actually just get you don't get step-by-step guidance at all. You literally just get the overall arching goals of today's project, and you see if you can guide yourself through it. I love this version a lot. I think when you've done this project once, you can always do it a second time using no touch and just see, oh, can I do this by myself? In the meantime, it's our first time doing this project together, so let's do high touch. All right. Now, I'm super excited and I'm super ready for this project. And before we start step one, we've got a few things to do. First thing is we can do a little quiz on the key concepts that are up ahead. You're also going to get a quiz at the end of this project to recap what you've learned. But for now, let's do this quiz and just test yourself. Ooh, what concepts do you already know? So let's take the quiz and see how we fare before we do any of the steps. My goodness, we're starting off strong. What is the purpose of identity federation in the context of transferring data between AWS and GCP? Is it A, sharing permanent access keys between AWS and GCP? And if you don't know the answer at all, just chuck in a guess. Just chuck in a guess in the chat. I'd love to know what you guys think is the closest answer to these. Is it B, bypassing security measures for easier data transfer? Is it C, establishing a direct network connection between AWS and GCP? Or is it D, creating a secure trust relationship between cloud providers for temporary access? What is the purpose of identity federation? What do you think? What do you think? What is the purpose of identity federation? Yo, we got 3 guesses for D. Gang it up. All right. Let's do D. Oh, D is correct. Yeah, and we're going to see how we're going to set up identity federation in a second too. That's going to come through when we want to connect GCP with AWS. What is the main purpose of Google Cloud Storage Transfer Service? Is it A, managing databases, B, transferring data between cloud storage services, C, managing virtual machines, or is it D, deploying applications to GCP? What is the purpose of this one? Storage Transfer Service. All right. Let's try out B. Thank you, chat. Very nice. That's true. Storage transfer service is designed for transferring data in and out of GCP cloud storage. I really like that the transfer service, there are actually multiple ways that you can access it, and you're going to see the second way in our secret mission. Why is the subject ID essential when creating a custom trust policy for the IAM role in AWS? Why is a subject ID essential when creating a custom trust policy for the IAM role in AWS? There's three different things involved here. We got subject ID, we got custom trust policy, and we got IAM role. This is super important in the setting up the permissions for GCP. You know how we talked about permissions over here at the IAM role. So, what do you think? We've got A, to verify that the request is coming from your GCP project storage transfer service. We've got B, to configure network settings between AWS and GCP. We've got C, to encrypt the data being transferred between the two clouds. We've got D, to identify the AWS account accessing the GCP resources. Oh my goodness, this one's a bit harder, isn't it? What do you think? Do you have a guess for what a subject ID means? Why it's essential in a custom trust policy? I think we've got some smart cookies in the chat. It looks like A is the answer. Ah, very cool. Very, very good, everyone. To everyone that says subject ID is here to verify the request, would you also like to make a guess on, what the subject ID is about? How would you define subject ID or explain it to someone else? All right. What is the key benefit of using a multi-cloud approach? Oof. Okay, so we've got A, always resulting in lower costs compared to a single cloud. We've got B, higher reliability. C, exclusively using AWS for compute services. And D, restricting data to a single cloud provider for simplicity. Whoa, we've got some pretty hot takes in C and D, don't we? I wonder what you think is a key benefit. H is doing a great job trying to guess, because I feel like you've been on a great answer streak so far. Okay, what do you think is a key benefit? All right, we've got Imam in the chat saying B sounds reasonable. Shall we try B then? Shall we try B? Oh, we've got more B guesses. Okay, all right. Higher reliability. What do you think? Ow. I didn't think we'd get everything right. Oh my gosh, at the start of the project, I'm in a room with geniuses today. So true, multi-cloud does enhance reliability because you're distributing data across multiple providers. It doesn't always mean lower cost, all right? So it can lead to cost savings, but it's not guaranteed, and it doesn't truly just mean, multi-cloud equals cost savings. Yeah, it depends on how you end up allocating your resources across these providers. So what is the primary function of Amazon S3? Oh, we're finishing this on a very sweet note, I think. Is Amazon S3 about running VMs, running virtual machines? Is it about managing relational databases? Is it about storing objects in the cloud? Or is S3 about configuring your network settings? Oh, I hope we get this one right. The first step is going to be about S3. So very topical, actually, that we finished this quiz on the service that we're going to be using first. Yeah, I think everyone's correct there. Gangada says, see. Okay, I got you. Very true. Yeah, so Amazon S3 is AWS's object storage service, and we're going to be using it in step 1 of this project today to store some data. And then in step 2, we're going to be setting up our GCP account. If you already have it, you can skip the entirety of step 2, which is awesome. And then in step 3, you can use storage transfer service in GCP to set up that system for backing up files. And then in step 4, that's where we're going to start doing the permission stuff, as a recap. And in step 5, you're going to be seeing your data come through in GCP storage service. So in this secret mission, we'll also set up something called a selective file transfer. That's at the very end of today's project today. And it lets you pick exactly which files get transferred. I really like this one. You get to see just like the flexibility of storage transfer as well. Okay, very cool. So in this project today, we're gonna demonstrate how to set up storage transfer between multiple cloud providers. We're doing this project to learn multi-cloud and storage skills so that, why are we learning about multi-cloud? What are the benefits of multi-cloud? Can you remember? So that engineering teams can learn how it improves redundancy and avoids, I can say so that engineering teams can improve redundancy and avoid vendor lock-in. Okay, that's one of the things that's great about multi-cloud as well. Honestly, in this scenario, having a backup storage location is great too. So that if your storage all goes down in S3, imagine if you're like, oh yeah, I do have everything backed up in GCP. Thank goodness. Okay, so in this step, we're gonna get started by creating a new S3 bucket, and then we're just gonna upload files inside that too. Very, very nice. In this step, we will create a new S3 bucket because we will use it to store files. It's going to be our primary storage location. Okay, all done. Okay, so let's go ahead and log into your AWS Management Console as your IAM admin user, and then we're gonna try and look for S3 inside the console. So this could be very familiar with you if you've used S3 before. All we gotta do is search for S3 like this, select it here, and you can select create bucket like this. Create bucket. And for your bucket name, I'm just gonna move this here as well so we can always see the steps on the right-hand side of the screen today as well. And for the bucket name over here, you can select this little, pencil icon here to update it to say your name. Okay, and then once you're done, just make sure that you make your bucket name very, very unique. So it says network data transfer source, and then put in your name here. Nice. And when that's done, I think that's all the settings that we need today. Just put in a very, very unique bucket name, and you're ready to store files inside. Okay. I also thought I'd mention something important to note here is that storage transfer service only supports select regions in Amazon S3, so do make sure that you're setting yourself up for success by choosing a region that you can continue to use later on in this project. All right, so I'm gonna be using US West 2 today here, but these are the other regions that storage transfer service also supports. Okay, so now that we've created the bucket, let's go ahead and put some files inside, and then we're done with step 1. Okay, so easy peasy lemon squeezy. It's just as easy as uploading files into any other cloud file storage you might use, like Google Drive. All we gotta do is click into your bucket, select upload, and then upload your files inside. Now, this is your chance to just have some freedom and randomly choose 1 to 3 files from your computer to upload. But if you're unsure about the files you like to use today, you can always download this zip file that's provided in the storage in the project guide. Okay, so here you go. I'm just downloading the zip file now so I can do the project with it today. And then it should show up in your downloads folder when it's ready. Okay, so we've got the zip file here, and you can click open it. Click to open it like this. And then you've got a bunch of files that you can use, and it's, yes, very sneaky, but I love showcasing some Nextwork projects. So a bunch of documentation is going to come greet you if you're using the zip file, and then you can upload them inside here. There we go. So we're uploading the files now. Yeah, and a big shout out to a few comments here. Yeah, very nice. Talking about multi-cloud. Yeah, and I appreciate this comment from Imam as well. In my professional experience, never had experience with multi-cloud. Yeah, I see this in 2 different angles. You know, one way to look at it is like, oh, like why haven't you seen like multi-cloud before? First of all, I'm really glad that you're learning about it today now. Next thing is, I think the cool thing about multi-cloud is that you can use as much of it or as little of it as you like. So for example, you can just use multi-cloud as a storage backup. You know, that's a great way to use multi-cloud. Just because multiple cloud providers exist doesn't mean you need to have an entire application that can entirely run on like multiple cloud providers. You can choose. Do you want just your storage to be backed up with like another cloud provider? Do you want to spread out the compute power so that, you know, if one cloud provider fails, you know, so like a similar virtual machine inside GCP can like start just running and support your application. What I really like about multi-cloud is the fact that it's just that flexible as well. You know, you can really choose to do a lot with it, or choose to go light and just say, oh, I just want to back up some data. So yeah, I think, and you prefer using Terraform, which I love. I highly rate it too, Imam, where you've given me a lot to think about there. I feel like you can do this project with Terraform too. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. So now that you've uploaded your files, you can take a screenshot showing the files you've uploaded to your S3 bucket. So let's take a screenshot. All right, cool beans. Put that in your documentation. All right. What did you set up in S3? We started this project by setting up an S3 bucket. We uploaded, well, in our case, we uploaded 10 files, all documentation of Nextwork projects. Okay? Very, very great. Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited for us to see this backup happen. So you've just uploaded data to your S3 bucket, and let's switch gears now and create a GCP account. So we're gonna move over to GCP now, and we'll need to set up an account to set up another storage location in GCP so that we can do the backup. Okay, so in this step, we're gonna sign up to GCP for free. We will sign up to GCP for free because we're gonna need a GCP account to set up our backup storage location. Awesome, that's great. So let's go ahead, click done for that, and get on ahead with setting up our GCP account. Now, do you already have a GCP account? If you're not sure, you can go ahead and visit console.cloud.google.com and try signing in with your Google account to check. So if you can access the Google Cloud Console without needing to go through some sort of sign-up flow, you already have GCP sorted. So you can already skip ahead to step 3. So good. But if you don't have a GCP account like me, let's set one up. Okay, let's set one up from scratch together. So, all right, shall I get into it? Let's follow some detailed steps already provided by Google Cloud Platform to make this work. So, what I'm gonna do is, I think I might actually switch to a new window. Might switch to this one. All right, everybody. Oh, this isn't working today. Oh, it's stubborn today. That's all right then. Let's open up Google Cloud, and I'm just gonna use that to create an account today. So here we can actually start with creating an account. And Google Cloud Platform is like basically Google's suite of cloud computing services and products. It's similar to AWS. The services it provides lets you access computing power, storage, databases, machine learning tools, and networking tools, all over the cloud. It is one of the major cloud providers in the market. Often the ranking is like AWS, Azure, and then Google Cloud Platform. What I really like about Google Cloud is that it is very much like a rising platform as well because of all of the AI services it's been providing. So I highly rate like being able to set up AWS or Google Cloud Platform in today's project. Okay, the goal is to transfer data between these two cloud service providers, so we definitely need accounts on both. And the cool thing is, creating a GCP account is also free, and it also gives you access to free tier services, similar to AWS's free tier. And you also get trial credits on top of that. So you also get another like $300 loaded into your account already. So you can spend it on non-free tier services for the first 90 days of your account. So let's take a screenshot of GCP's cheeky little homepage and get started. I wonder if this account already has a GCP account. Okay, let me learn about this in a second. All right, Google Cloud Platform is another cloud service provider from Google, as you might guess. Ooh. We set up a GCP account to create a destination storage location for today's multi-cloud data transfer. All right, very good. Now I'm just going to do a quick check of something in the background, team. And I'm just going to check if this account actually already has a Google Cloud account. If it does, then that means I can start from scratch with all of you with something new. I see. Small intermission. I'm gonna let everyone also open up the Google Cloud sign up page so that you can also get started with signing up. And you might just beat me to it. You might just beat me to it and create an account before me. All right, let me just put that link in the chat as well so you can get access to it easy. All right. Oh, thank you for waiting, everyone. I know that took a hot minute, but I'm all set up now. Phew, that took me a hot minute, but I think I'm ready now. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so this is what the homepage should look like for you. It should say get started for free if you've never signed up to Google Cloud before. So you can click get started for free here, like this. And then you can choose the Google Cloud, the Google account that you want to use for this project today. Now, heads up, if you don't have a Google account, you will need to sign up for Google first before you sign up to Google Cloud, but that takes just another minute or two, and then you'll be all sorted. Okay, so you'll need to just choose an account to sign up today. Okay, and it's gonna look like this. And it's totally good to just click in your account and then use that. Oh, I just realized it spazzed a little. My screen. That's totally okay. So you can just pick your account and then get started with creating one straight away. Now, once you've created your account, you can also see this dashboard that takes you through. Let's see, this dashboard that takes you through creating a payment account where you need to put in some payment details. Now, this payments profile is not going to actually charge your card. I thought I'd mention this right away. You won't get charged for putting in a payment method. It's simply for identity verification. GCP will also automatically stop all your resources at the end of your 90-day free trial. So even after the 90 days where you get some free credit from GCP, you automatically get your resources stopped, so you never get charged. And I think that's great. Long story short, unless you actively choose to upgrade your account into a billing account where you might get charged, GCP won't be taking money from you. Okay, so that's a hot tip for creating a GCP account. The Nextcloud community is always here if you have any questions or you run into any problems with creating your account, and I'll just add that link to the chat as well. So do make the most out of the community if you get stuck at all. But I do realize that I'm about to run into a few issues with creating this account live. So I might just pause in terms of account creation and take us through a few other tips in terms of Google Cloud's free tier. So while you're creating that account, I'm just going to talk about a few other cool things about Google Cloud, Google Cloud's free tier, so you can get to know it a bit better too. It was over here. I'm pretty sure it was right here, unless I missed it. Okay, Google it is. Google Cloud free tier. I think it's worthwhile to learn a bit about the free services you get access to with Google Cloud. Here you go. Oh, right. What a beautiful page to showcase what you can get for free. I wish this was a bit more visual. But here we have things like you can get access to things like App Engine, Artifact Registry. There's BigQuery, which is great for data. Cloud Build and Cloud Deploy, which is very similar to Code Build and Code Deploy from the 7-Day DevOps Challenge. Cloud Run Functions, very similar to Lambda. I think Cloud Run Functions and Cloud Run, yeah, very similar to Lambda. You've got Cloud Shell, so similar to AWS's Cloud Shell 2, where you can just run commands inside the console. And then you've got Cloud Storage, which is what we're going to be using as our storage bucket. So these are all services you can use for free with GCP, so I highly recommend checking it out. I don't think the number of services is as much as AWS, but it's still worthwhile. Okay. There we go. So I'm going to say that we've finished creating our GCP account about now. And then here we go. We're going to talk a little bit about what you can get for free, just so that we're all across it as we get started with GCP's free tier. Cool. And we've got some great comments in the chat there. Would this setup in a real production environment cost more because the company will be paying for both S3 and Google Cloud Storage? This is a very good point, and it is true. So you will be actually paying for storage for both S3 and Google Cloud, and that's the reason why storage classes are so important. We're going to go into storage classes in a bit, but it's about how you kind of set up your payment for storage based on how often you're going to access it. So your backup location, in this case, Google Cloud, you're going to want to make sure the storage class is something like archive, where it's like designed to be for backup locations, and the actual cost of storing it is going to be super low. Whereas the main source, S3, might have like a more active storage class, where you're going to tell AWS, like, hey, by the way, I'm going to use this a lot. So you can tailor your plan so that you get charged more for certain things and charged less for other things. It's a bit like an electricity plan. Sometimes an electricity plan might say like, oh, you know, if you're a low user, we won't pay you so much for the daily price, like the daily price of using electricity. But then like the variable rate is going to be higher. And it's very, very similar with storage services too. So very, very cool, everyone. Just as a heads up, I am running into a bit of a GCP issue in the background, which is why I'm looking a little funny. But let me just try one more time to log into GCP from my account, and then I'll be able to get up to speed with everyone. You're probably way ahead of me and have your GCP account already ready. If you don't, now's your chance. Okay, I think I'm up to speed with everyone now. So I think I should be logged in all okay. Okay, and let me just move this over here. I should be all good now. I should be all ready to go. Phew! Okay, I feel much better. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm just gonna answer this question, and this is me logged into AWS. Oh, I really like that you can also get access to all of the services like this. That's awesome. Okay, GCP's free tier includes a suite of 20 plus free services. For example, cloud storage, cloud engine for running VMs, or even cloud build and cloud deploy, which are similar to code builds and code deploy in AWS. You also get $300 USD of free credit to use in, I would say to use in services not covered by the free tier. But this free credit only lasts 90 days. Just be mindful of that. So after 90 days, all your services just get stopped automatically. And then you'll just need to upgrade your account to a billing account to continue using those non-free tier services. But at the same time, still access things like free tier services, and non-free tier services will all both be included once you upgrade to a billing account, and that only needs to happen after 90 days. Or after you spend all of that $300 of credit. Okay, so thanks so much everyone for waiting. I am now ready. I've now logged in to GCP, thank goodness. And now we're just going to set up a storage transfer from AWS to GCP. So it turns out there's this handy service in GCP that can help you with transferring data in and out of AWS and then going into GCP or GCP storage bucket. So we're going to be using that service today. It's called the Storage Transfer Service. And the cool thing about this is that it's super easy to use the storage transfer service. It just makes the data transfer so much easier. Okay, data transfers are important for setting up backup, storage locations, in a multi-cloud architecture setup. Using multiple cloud providers for the transfer has benefits such as redundancy. I think that's the key one. I also think the cool thing about having multiple cloud providers for the transfer, aside from redundancy, it also helps with any access that an application in another cloud setup might need. So, such as redundancy, and in cases where an application in another cloud environment needs access to that data, transferring the files over to the other cloud service provider can also help with latency. Okay, very cool. So we're gonna go ahead and open up the menu here, and this account over here that I'm using today doesn't show like all of these different pinned products, but by default, when you are creating a new account, you're gonna see these pinned products on the side on your navigation bar, and this is just GCP recommending that, oh, you're gonna wanna use these services as a new account. Mine has been customized so that I don't see any of these pinned like top products there, but that's okay. What's more important is that we all click on view all products at the bottom there. Okay, so we're in all products. Storage is the key kind of category we're looking for today. And here we have storage over here. And we want to be using storage transfer. Okay, so you can find storage transfer as the third option. Let's click into it and let's get started with storage transfer. Okay, now storage transfer service, it's for transferring data in and out of GCP. And this service just makes it easy to handle authentication between the two platforms, between S3 and GCS. It can start and stop the transfer for you at different times, and it can also just make sure that data transfer is done correctly. So without it, you'd need to build your own transfer system, which means downloading all your data to a computer first, uploading it to the other cloud. And that's just a bit slow and expensive. Yo, and take care to everyone. Oh my gosh, we do have a bunch of night owls in our live today. So thanks so much for taking the time, Emma. All right. So the transfer is set up using storage transfer service, which is GCP's service for moving data in and out of its storage location of storage service called GCP Cloud Storage, so GCS. We need this service because it helps with handling the operations of multi-cloud file transfer, like authentication, and what else? Can you remember? Starting and stopping the transfer at the right time. Yeah, imagine if you can automate it so you don't need to wake up at odd hours, or you don't need to specifically stop the work that you're doing to start a transfer. Storage transfer service can like do that for you, can time itself for you. Okay, and yeah, thank you so much to everyone that's also saying, oh, eyes already glazing over. I understand it's also very late at night for you, Karishma. So thank you so much for being here. Okay, so let's set up the source and destination for our transfer job. How we're gonna get started here is we're gonna select create transfer job in the storage transfer console. And then we're gonna get started by selecting our source type. So where is the storage coming from? And where is the data coming from? It's coming from Amazon S3. And then where is it going to? Okay, it's going into a Google Cloud Storage bucket. So here we go. Amazon S3, Google Cloud Storage. I love this little cheeky note that the source type, like where the data can come from, there's a lot of different options here. But then for destination type, it can only go into Google Cloud Storage. So this service really is about just transferring data in and out of Google Cloud Storage itself. It's not exactly about, you can't use it to set up a transfer between S3 and Azure, for example. Okay, but once you set up the source and destination, let's head to the next step. And for anyone that has a keen eye, you're gonna notice that there is a scheduling mode too. Batch transfer just means it's gonna happen one-off. Event-driven, which is something that we'll explore in the Pro project, means that the data will happen whenever, like kind of on demand. Because batch transfer is like one-off, okay, let's just do this now. Event-driven is like whenever I upload like a new object into S3, I want that automatically updated in GCP as well. So this requires a bit more of an advanced setup, but batch transfer is a bit simpler because it only happens, either one-off or on a recurring basis at a specific time that you mention. So let's select next step. And here is where we can choose a source. All right. We're gonna take a screenshot first of this setup here. Oopsies. Okay, let's take a screenshot of this setup here. And let's go ahead and explain how batch and event-driven transfers are different. So there are two different types of transfers you could set up: batch transfers and event-driven transfers. The difference is when these transfers happen. Batch transfers are either one-off or on a consistent schedule. Event-driven transfers happen in real time, i.e. on demand or on the go, whenever there's been an update in the source bucket, i.e. in S3. Okay, we're gonna select next step now. Let's head to the next step. Oh, and I just need to paste that one more time. Okay, so for the source, this is now GCP saying, hey, understood, you want the data to come from S3. What is the name of that bucket? What is the name of the S3 bucket? So all you gotta do is enter your S3 bucket's name like this. And you're gonna notice that we have some additional settings that are designed for like enterprise, teams that might want to transfer data using CloudFront or using a managed private network. This is really cool if the team already has CloudFront set up. And CloudFront is often a very, very fast way to distribute content, which is why if you use your CloudFront distribution to distribute content, like distribute the files that you want to transfer, it's going to be faster. And if a managed private network, imagine if you have like super, super important and secure, confidential information that you don't want to share or transfer over the public internet. That's when you want to use a managed private network and set up some specific network settings that say, okay, you're going to use this private network that I've set up to transfer the data. Let's not use the public internet for this one. But we won't be using either of these settings. I just thought it'd be nice to mention it. Once you put in your bucket name, you can go on ahead and just set up the credentials now. So this is the part where we're gonna tell, what's it called? We're gonna tell GCP how it's gonna get access to AWS. The method that we're gonna be using today is not gonna be an access key, okay? Have a little look. We're gonna be using AWS IAM role for identity federation. My goodness, what the heck does this mean? Does anyone know how you would define identity federation, what it means? I'm very, very curious on whether or not this is something you're familiar with. Okay, so Identity federation is our method of connecting GCP and AWS today because it creates a secure trust relationship between the two cloud providers. You might be familiar with access keys because we've had to use access keys in the past to say, let's put in our credentials for AWS CLI, for example. That's something we might have had to do in the past if you've done other Nix projects. But we're not going to be using access key because access keys in general is not the most secure way to put in credentials, because you have to literally put in like a key ID or a secret access key, which is just like saying, can you like input your password like this? And you have to like paste in your password somewhere. In contrast, with an IAM role for identity federation, there's no such thing as passwords that you need to keep anywhere. This is the whole like rise in cloud security where you're kind of going passwordless as much as you can. What are ways that we can abstract the concept of passwords away from a process or from a system so that you're really protecting yourself from anything like a password leak? You know, if no password exists, then no password leak will exist. Identity federation is kind of like one of those methods that avoids a password. In an identity federation, GCP is getting temporary credentials by setting up this role that tells AWS, hey, one of the people that can assume this role is GCP, and specifically the GCP storage transfer service. And what this means is now later on, when GCP storage transfer service goes to AWS and says, hey, I'm here to grab some data from S3, AWS is going to say, who are you? And GCP storage service is going to say, storage transfer is going to say, I'm GCP storage transfer. I'm just here to get some objects from your S3 bucket. Then AWS is going to say, are you allowed to be here? It's going to go into its base of IAM roles. It's going to go through the IAM roles and it's going to say, I do have an IAM role that says GCP storage transfer is allowed to do this and this and this and this, whatever is inside the IAM role. Then it's going to go back to storage transfer and it's going to say, hey, I've checked. You are actually allowed to come to my account, and you're allowed to do this and this and this, written out in my role. Then storage transfer is going to say, great. All I'm here to do is grab some data from S3. If the role says I can grab data from S3, I'm going to come in, do my job, and leave. So storage transfer service is going to go in, do the job. It's going to grab the data. It's going to go. It's going to leave your AWS environment. And the moment it leaves, those credentials and the permission to grab data from S3 is also expired. It also expires until the next time storage transfer goes again to AWS, and AWS again is going to ask, who are you? And they're going to have the exact same conversation one more time. So this is a way to authenticate Google Storage Transfer with AWS without having to give storage transfer a permanent password, which is great. I honestly think of this like Face ID. Do you use Face ID on your phone? You're going to notice that with Face ID, you don't need to keep any sort of password. But every time you unlock your phone's like, who are you? And you have to present your face, and your phone's going to say, oh, you're you. And it just unlocks. And you can use your phone for as much as you like, but the moment you leave, your phone's going to lock again. And the next time you open up your phone's going to again say, who are you? And it unlocks again when it sees your face one more time. The cool thing about that is you don't need to leave any password around to unlock your phone, which means no one's really going to like say, oh, I've got your password. I can now like access your phone when you're not around. And yeah, Identity Federation is just great for that. So we're going to be doing kind of AWS's version of Face ID by setting up Identity Federation. Okay, so we're going to be reflecting on Identity Federation, and then we're going to set it up inside the AWS console. To connect AWS and GCP, we're using Identity Federation, which works by giving GCP or GCP's storage transfer service to be specific, temporary access. We're going to give it temporary access to AWS. This is more secure than the other methods because it's passwordless. GCP does not need to store any password or credentials, which also protects us from any password leaks. What will happen is that AWS will recognize storage transfer service as a trusted service, so that requests from STS, I'm gonna call it STS from now on, are accepted and have permissions granted automatically. Was that clear, team? Does identity federation feel clear to you? Was that explanation okay? I would love your feedback on that one, because I think it's a very important concept for this project. Thank you, team. All right, so fantastic. You've set up S3 as your source for your transfer job. In this next step, we're going to figure out how we're going to set up that IAM role in AWS so that GCP can access your S3 bucket. All right. So what are we doing in this step? In this step, we will set up an IAM role in AWS because we need to use that. We need to use it to grant GCP access to our AWS S3, Amazon S3 buckets. Okay, and I think I'll try to be a bit more specific because the credentials and the IAM role we're about to set up is actually going to give storage transfer service access. It's not going to give GCP access. I think saying giving GCP access is a little bit broad because it would imply like all the services get access to Amazon S3 using this role, but that's not true. This role is going to be so specific. It's actually going to say only this service, which is Google Storage Transfer, is allowed to use or get access to your S3 buckets. Cool. Okay, so let's get back into it. And let's head into the IAM console to create our role. We're actually almost there. Do you know it's already step 4 now out of 5 steps? So we're almost there. Look at you go. Let's go. Let's head into IAM and let's set up that role. Open IAM in a new tab. Oh, and Karishma, already late, need to go, or else my mom gonna kick me out of the house. Oh, Karishma, that's so cool. That's so cute. Thank you so much for being here. It's been amazing. I think it's our first time like chatting live like this, so thanks. See you next time. Okay, so in IAM, we're gonna be setting up a role. And what is this role gonna do? Do you remember? Why are we setting up a role? Create a role. Like this, select create role. And what do you think I should pick? I'm not even gonna say I'm not even gonna say what the instructions are. I'm gonna spend 10 seconds here. What do you think I should pick out of these options? To figure out what you need to pick, start again by thinking, why are we creating a role? Who's gonna be using this role? Who's getting access to what? So here we're being asked to select the trusted entity type. So what do you think that means and who do you think we should pick? I need your help. Gengara spot on. Gengara says, is it the custom one that we should pick? And that's exactly it. Yeah, we do pick the custom trust policy. And I think it's a great exercise actually to look at something and not say exactly what we should pick first. Because let's actually strike off these other options now that we're here. AWS services would say we're giving an AWS service to get access to another AWS service in your account, and we're like, nah, like that's not the case here. Storage transfer service is not another AWS service, so that doesn't count. It's also not another AWS account, so it doesn't count. Web identity is a funny one, and I see that H gave it a go. It's okay, don't sob. Okay, web identity. It allows users federated by the specified external web identity provider to assume this role to perform actions in this account. My goodness, I know, I can see why it can be tempting to choose this one. But the key reason why we're not going to be picking that is because it allows users federated by the specified external web identity provider. And in this case, Google Storage Transfer isn't a user. Okay, it's actually just a service, belonging to another Google cloud service provider, and it's not exactly an external web identity provider too. So if you're curious, let's have a quick search. I think like an external web identity provider, it's like one of those like SSO, single sign-on kind of experiences where you can use like one account and authenticate to multiple things. That's not exactly storage transfer service either. And this one is like from a corporate directory, uses from corporate directory. We don't really need that. So that's why custom trust policy is it, okay? It enables others. And in our case, yes, Google Storage Transfer falls under others. Okay, it's a service from another cloud service provider. So we're gonna say, all right, AWS, Google Storage Transfer is like an other. Okay, it doesn't fall into any of these categories. So now AWS is gonna say, okay, you wanna provide access to Google Storage Transfer. You need a policy to do that. This policy is called a custom trust policy. It does not provide the permission settings already. This custom trust policy is just about telling AWS who is gonna get access. So here, we're gonna need to tell AWS, here are the details of the storage transfer service we wanna give access to. It's not gonna say, oh, let's give it S3 access. It's not gonna say, let's give it access to this and this and this in our account. This is just about stating who is gonna be on the receiving end of these permissions. So let's go ahead and use this code that we have available for your policy today. And this is how you would structure a policy to give, to tell AWS that we want to give Google Storage Transfer permissions to your account. Okay, and if you're feeling a little nervous, you're like, oh my God, how do I know how to write a custom trust policy? I don't know how to do this alone. Don't worry. Honestly, this policy that we're using today, I found it straight in GCP's own documentation. So you can always, look into your documentation and look for custom trust policies. If you're trying to connect two services together, often the other service, in this case GCP, will provide you with the policy that you need to use. Okay, so in this case, you're gonna notice there's actually something we need to fill in before we can just go ahead and and create the IAM role. There's something called a subject ID that we need to enter in here. What is a subject ID? A subject ID is how AWS will know whether or not this request is coming from your account's storage transfer service and not someone else's account. Because storage transfer service is such a big, broad service that all GCP accounts can use. So everyone's GCP account is called a project in GCP lingo. You know how we have AWS account? GCP kind of says you have a GCP project, okay? So instead of saying GCP account, I'm gonna say GCP project from now on. So inside a GCP project, Each service has a unique ID that's unique to your project. So my project has storage transfer service, and that storage transfer service is going to have a unique ID that's different from H's storage transfer service. It's going to be different from Gangada's storage transfer service. It's going to be different from Kareshma's. It's going to be different from Imam. All of us in our individual GCP projects will have those different services that we can use, and each service will have that unique ID. That unique ID is called a subject ID. And GCP uses that so that we can accurately tell like people like AWS or services like AWS, like, hey, this is the unique ID of the exact GCP project and the exact service that's going to get access to the S3 buckets. And that's the reason why subject ID is so cool, because you can really, really zone in and be specific about whose storage transfer service is going to get access. I hope that's clear. Are we confident with subject ID and what it means? In one line, I would say a subject ID is like a unique ID for every service and every account or in every project in GCP. That's how I'd say it. What do you think? How would you explain it? I feel like someone in the chat is going to have like a much better explanation or a much better one-liner than what I just provided. Okay, so to retrieve that subject ID, we need to actually go and swim inside like Google's documentation for a second here. So Google has a special little method that is like a profile search for a service account. When you call this method with your project ID, it returns details about the unique service account that handles your GCP account storage transfer service. This is a little bit like word pasta. I think I'm going to break this down a little bit for us. Okay, let's break it down a little bit. What I just talked to you about is the fact that we have something called a unique ID for every single service, okay, and every single project. That unique ID is not just the unique ID of that service, it's actually the unique ID of something called a service account. So if we were to have layers, you've got your service, in this case, storage transfer service, and you can think of there's this like wrapper around the service, and that is called your service account. And that service account is the thing that actually has that unique ID. So that's the reason why we're inside this method called Google Service Account.get, because this method is going to help us find the specific service account ID belonging to your project. Okay, that's all we're doing here today. So in order to find your special service account ID, this method is going to say, oh, but what's your project's name? Because it's going to need your project's name to find out the ID that's unique to your project. So we're going to go into we're going to go back into Google Cloud, and we're going to find your project name, and you can see that there's an ID here. For me, it's Network Projects like this. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste that inside my project ID. Your project ID might look something pretty cute. It might look something like fast blueprint 454110-T3. It might have a funny name because that's like the default name that comes when you create a new account. But in my case, like mine is a bit more specific. It just says Network-projects like that. But let's go back to this one. Make sure you've pasted your project ID now. And then you can just select execute at the bottom here. So select execute. We're just going to run the Google Service Account method, which is where you need to log in one more time. Select continue. And then we're going to grant Google APIs Explorer access to your account. This access is only going to last 7 days. Okay, it's going to get revoked after 7 days. So if you're feeling a little nervous about account security, just know that you can also remove access sooner by clicking on this quick link. But by default, Google APIs Explorer is simply here to just see your account details and make sure you're allowed to just find the subject ID of storage transfer service. It's just here to authenticate you. Just make sure you have the permission to do this. Okay. We've executed it now. and we've got a subject ID. Okay, it's a bunch of random ass letters. That's cool. We're gonna copy those letters, subject ID is right here, and we're gonna go back into our IAM role, and we're gonna paste that here. Do I still have you? Did that feel confusing? If you were to explain what we just did, H, I'm gonna take you on for a challenge because you're doing a great job, and you've made a very good analogy here about, is it the same as ARNs? It's very, very similar to ARN in AWS. So H, I'm gonna challenge you. Would you be able to explain what is a subject ID and why we needed this in our custom trust policy? We're also gonna put that inside a little task in a second. We're going to explain that together as a team too. Let me know how you fare. Okay. So once you've pasted that, we're ready. We can take a screenshot of our custom trust policy like this. And we're going to mention why the subject ID is essential for this project. So what I challenged H to do, we're all going to do together as a team too. So within the IAM role, we needed to write a custom trust policy because AWS will use it to identify the storage transfer service inside our GCP project. The policy identifies GCP, I would say it identifies storage transfer service. So the policy identifies storage transfer service based on a subject ID, which is the unique ID of the service account linked with storage transfer service. Okay. So I'm going to select done here. And then we can finish up with creating our custom trust policy. Let's select next. Okay, and a big hello to everyone that's joining us now. That's awesome. Hello, hello everyone. So cool to have you here. All right, so now we're gonna attach some permissions, and here we're gonna say Amazon S3 read-only access is what we need. So read-only access is an AWS policy. It grants read-only access because it's the only thing that storage transfer service is gonna need. We're only backing up data today. We don't need storage transfer service to delete any data in the bucket. So let's just pick this one and let's select next. Okay, for the role name, we'll use something simple. Network data transfer, GCP role. And then for the description, this is a role that grants your GCP account, or you can say grants storage transfer service. In my GCP project, read-only access to our S3 buckets, creating this IAM role as a part of Nextworks multi-cloud project. Okay, cool. Let's create that role right away. And I know I got a bit speedy there. I think I got a bit too excited. But yes, let's also make sure that the policy summary also includes this specific policy here. If it does, you can check that off, create the role, and you're all done. You've created the IAM role. I think that was the hardest part of today's project, actually. So if you've completed that, you've just completed the hardest part. It's a bit of a smooth sail from here. Okay, so we created a custom IAM role for storage transfer service because it needs read-only access in order to read and retrieve files to later store it in GCS, Google Cloud, GCP Cloud Storage. Okay, so now that that's done, we're now on to step 5, where we're transferring our objects from S3 to GCS. So we've got our IAM role ready here. Okay, it looks good. Let's go back to GCP Storage Transfer Service. Let's just complete this transfer setup and see the transfer come to life. All right. In this step, we will finish up the setup for our transfer and see data get backed up to GCP Cloud Storage. How are you doing, guys? Are you feeling excited? Oh, it's the last step already, so I'm pretty excited too. We're gonna see it come to life very, very soon. Oh, my hair's funny. So let's select done. Let's copy that role ARN like this. Okay, so you should have it all copied. And once it's copied, we're gonna go back into our transfer setup. Okay, this is the transfer setup. We were stuck here for a little bit, but we're back now. And we're just gonna say, hey, here's the IAM role that you've requested. Here we go. And now this role is gonna give Storage Transfer Service the permission to actually retrieve the files inside your S3 buckets. Cool. So we're gonna select next step. And if you're curious about these 2 extra settings, these are like filters that can automatically filter out files that maybe Storage Transfer Service doesn't need to back up. By default, Storage Transfer Service is gonna get excited and it's gonna back up everything that's inside your source bucket. But what if you're saying, oh, by the way, you only need to transfer files that are inside, that have this in the name. Or, oh, by the way, you only need to back up files that are uploaded in the last day, not in all time. So if that's the case, you can use these filters. But for us, we're gonna wanna back up everything. So let's just select next step. Okay, and now we're choosing our destination. So now that Storage Transfer Service can grab the files, where should it store it? This is where we're gonna set up a bucket inside GCP as well and use that as our destination. So let's select browse here. And then we're gonna create a new bucket like this. Select create new bucket. And then we're gonna set up a new bucket inside GCS now. Okay, so if you've ever gone through the process of setting up a bucket inside AWS, just like what we did in step 1, you're gonna remember all we had to do was type in a unique bucket name, and that was it. We just put in a unique bucket name, we scrolled down, and then we just created the bucket. Now, GCS's bucket creation process is not that straightforward in my opinion. Even if you have the most basic of requirements, you still have a few more clicks to do. Okay, you still have a few more things to confirm. So let's go ahead and set up our bucket. First things first, let's name your bucket something unique, because just like S3, GCS buckets also need to have a globally unique and permanent name. Oh, and this bucket name's already taken. So let's use another bucket name. I'm gonna go -network at the end. Okay, so my bucket is gonna have a very, very unique name. And then we're gonna select continue. Okay, this is where it gets a little fun. Within GCS, you can decide where that data should be stored. Interesting. So you know how in S3, automatically that bucket is going to be stored in the region that you've selected. But within GCS, that's not the case. You can actually select some interesting regions outside of your current region to store your things, pretty flexible. And look at all of these cool like region codes. I'm so new to this. You know, Asia Southeast 1, Asia Southeast 2, Jakarta. Look at all of these interesting region names. You know, it's so new. And you can even select already whether or not you want to store it in multiple regions, in 2 regions, or just a single region. And let's just pick a single region because that's the easiest one. And pick the region that's closest to your AWS region so that there's less distance between your buckets, which means that the transfer goes through even faster. My goodness. I'm going to select Oregon. So US West 1, Oregon, and GCP is the same, kind of the same meaning as US West 2 and AWS, which also points to Oregon. So I'm winning here today. I have the exact same region, just with different region codes for my setup. And I'm going to select continue. Okay. And now we're here in storage class, which is very similar to what H has mentioned earlier. So a storage class is basically how you store your data inside GCS. And storage classes are split up kind of like electricity plans, so that depending on your usage, and the frequency of how often you're going to use something, you can tailor your pricing plan. Standard is for frequently accessed data with high performance and high availability. This means that storage is best for short-term storage. Like, I'm just storing something in this bucket and I'm gonna probably use it very, very soon. Then you've got nearline, best for backups and best for data accessed less than once a month. Now we would usually pick nearline or cold line if this is a real like backup. But in our case, we're just gonna stick with standard for this project today, because we're probably going to be checking like the backed up data very, very soon, which means we're actually going to access the data very, very quickly. So we're going to pick standard. But for other storage or backup use cases, nearline, cold line, archive are like great options. Because cold line is like, oh, I'm going to access this less than once a quarter. Archive, I'm going to access the data less than once a year. Cool. And we've also got a few questions, I think, in the chat. Gangada asks, which one is the primary storage here? AWS? Correct. AWS is the primary storage, and GCS is the backup. I know, right? GCP has buckets. Yeah, it's under a service called GCS, which is kind of like us saying AWS is S3, GCP has GCS. Okay, so let's enter here to set up our destination GCP bucket. And you know what? I'm going to rename this as GCS bucket to be a bit more specific. We needed to set up its region, which means where the data is stored, and its storage class, which means how frequently the data will be accessed. We chose a single region, one that's closest to the AWS region, and the standard storage class, since we'll be accessing the backup data soon. Okay, so we're going to select continue now. And let's continue on with some other settings just for your GCS bucket. We're not back into the transfer yet. We're actually still within the process of creating the bucket. Do you see this? We still have 2 more pages to go to create a bucket. I still feel like, man, this is actually a bit of a long process, but I think GCP designed it to be this way. Like you actually need to click through pages and pages and pages because the creation of a bucket does have some important settings you want to make sure you got right from the start. These default settings are just here to help us with making sure not everyone's going to get access to your bucket's objects by default, So we're preventing public access, which is very similar to AWS. By default, we're just going to block all public access. It's the same thing here. So let's continue. And then you now get to see a bit more about how you can protect your object data. There's even such thing called a soft delete policy, which means even if you delete the objects, it's actually going to have a 7-day soft delete, which means it's not completely deleted until 7 days after you requested the delete. And that 7-day period, you can actually choose to get it back, choose the data back to come back. We can unselect that so that later on when we delete all of the objects from our bucket, it's going to be very, very quick and easy. We don't want to actually keep our data running like just left in our account in the background for another 7 days. We want to just keep this project short and sweet. So let's untick the soft delete policy and let's create our bucket. We even get another pop-up that's Google Cloud confirming that you will be preventing any kind of public access. Great, that's what we want. Unless we were hosting a static website where we'd actually want the public to see the contents of our website, we can just keep this. We can just prevent public access in the meantime. So let's select confirm, please. Okay, finally, the bucket is created. So do you see the difference there? I genuinely feel like there's a difference in the experience of creating a bucket in S3 versus in GCS. Like GCS is so much more detailed. There's more things you can think about and configure. So you get a lot more control. Whereas I think with S3, the default settings are already selected for you. You can preview them, you can edit them, but in the meantime, the one thing you need to do is put in a unique name and you can go and create the bucket straight away. Finally, since the GCS bucket is created, let's select this. Let's select it. We're going to use it. And then we can click next step. Phew, we've set it up now. And we're almost done. We just need to schedule the job. We're going to say, when are we going to transfer these objects? We're going to say, do it now. Just do it once and do it now. And then for the description of today's transfer job, we're just going to say, this is a data transfer from S3 to GCP. Created this transfer job as a part of Nextworks multi-cloud project. And I'm going to change that to GCS again to be a bit more specific. Now, we can skip all of these settings here, and you're more than welcome to read the explanations for all of these extra settings. But for now, just to keep this demo a bit simpler, I will skip over the detailed explanation, and I'll just lightly talk about this. Manifest file is about being able to cherry pick exactly which objects you want to transfer and which you don't. Metadata options are about whether or not the data, when was the file created, what is the storage class of this object, whether or not you want to override it based on the source bucket's settings. When to overwrite is situations where you want to back up an object in S3 called, let's say, file.pdf. But then it turns out there's an existing file.pdf inside your Google storage, inside your GCS bucket. What should storage transfer do in that situation? Should it overwrite what's inside GCS to match what's inside S3? Should it skip that object? What should happen? And then when to delete, it's just saying, once you finish the transfer, should we just remove everything from S3? Should we just delete everything from the S3 bucket? We're not going to do that. But you have the option. And then you also have logging, which is like CloudWatch logs. Basically, it's like, do you want updates, in logs about the transfer, and do you want to get notified when it's finished? Okay, but we don't need any of these extra settings. Let's just create the job, and let's see what happens. All right. So once you've created the job, Storage Transfer Service is going to go and just start to go into your AWS environment. It's going to present itself. It's going to get access. It's going to grab all the files, and then it's going to go back into your GCS buckets to put the files in there. Here you can see that it's a success. The latest operation. That was very fast. I thought it might just still say in progress, but it's successful already. So once the success, let's just go back into our bucket inside. Let's go back to our bucket, which is inside GCS, and check. Have our objects been backed up? Is it all ready to go? Now, what I can do is, if you're like me and you don't have all of the products pinned here, you can go ahead into the job ID, click into your job, and where it says operations or configuration, I think configuration. Oh, okay. Where it says configuration, you're going to see that there's a name here for the destination bucket that you've set up in GCS. So you can actually go and copy that, paste that here, and that's going to take you straight to the storage bucket you set up. Okay, so let's go to your storage bucket. Otherwise, if you do have this pin here, you can select that cloud storage shortcut and then select buckets, just like we show here in this screenshot. Anyway, wherever you are, you should be able to visit your bucket. And there you go. Look at all of these files. Does this look familiar to you? Inside my GCS bucket, automate your browser, build a 3-tier web app. Does this look familiar at all to you? Yo. 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 Whoa, this is looking a little familiar. So yeah, all the files that we stored in S3 have successfully been backed up in GCS, just like this. You can see it's exactly all 10 files. And I can probably even click into one like this, download it, and ta-da! That's the file that I uploaded. It's one of the documentation that I uploaded inside here. Okay, so this is one of the files that I uploaded with amongst the 10, and you can see this is the version that I downloaded from GCS, and it's the exact same file, which is amazing. Okay, so let's take a screenshot. And it's, yeah, like Gangadhar and H say, a little bit crazy, and it's also fantastic that you can do something like this between different cloud service providers. You can just back up data from one to the other, which is awesome. How did you verify that your data transfer was successful today? We verified that our data transfer was successful by visiting our GCS bucket when the transfer was finished, and verifying and seeing that all the objects we uploaded into S3 are now inside our GCS bucket too. Crazy. Madness. Woohoo! So you've just transferred data from AWS S3 to GCP Cloud Storage today. I love this project. It's so clear, you know, you've got AWS, you've got GCP. How do you connect them? Using permissions. Iconic. And look at this transfer successfully done. That's amazing. So in our secret mission today, we're going to go back into that concept of manifest files to see how we can go beyond batch transferring everything and be able to cherry pick, you know, exactly which files you want to transfer using a manifest file. So this is an advanced technique. It's essential for enterprise migrations and migrations where you just want control over what data you want to move between your two buckets. So let's give this one a try, shall we? Let's unlock our secret mission. I'm excited. Secret mission. Okay, so in this secret mission, we're gonna go ahead and upload some more documents into S3, but this time we're gonna tell storage transfer service that we only want to back up like one of those files, not all of them. Let's see how we can do that. Go back into your S3 bucket, okay, which is right here. And let's select upload again. And let's select add files so we can add more files one more time. Okay, we're not gonna re-upload files that GCS already has. Let's try and upload some more files, okay? Now, I've got another zip file that contains 4 more pieces of documentation of network projects. So, such a great option if you don't know what to do. You also get to see some cool documentation along the way if you use this zip file. So I'm gonna unzip the zip file I just downloaded. Open it up. There we go. Here are the 4 pieces of documentation that you can also have fun with. And yeah, for anyone that's interested, these 4 pieces of documentation make up a series, another series of projects where you create an AI chatbot. Yeah, this is a great series too. Anyway, the key here is we're gonna upload some new files into our bucket. All right, open it up. And we're gonna select upload at the bottom. So we're just gonna upload some files into our S3 bucket yet again, but this time we're gonna write a manifest file before we set up the transfer. A manifest file is like a shopping list for your data transfer. It lets you specify exactly which files you want to move. That's incredibly useful. If you have thousands of files inside S3, but actually you just want to transfer like 30 of them. Transferring 30 is gonna sound painful because it's like big enough to make it like annoying if you need to download everything and upload everything again. But it's also small enough so that you wouldn't want to transfer and back up everything if that bucket has like 1,000 items. So let's go ahead and set up our manifest file now. Let's open up a text editor inside your computer, inside your local computer. And this can be maybe text edit. So I'm gonna go ahead and create text edit like this. Do I want to use text edit today? Actually, I'm gonna use the terminal today. I thought it would be fun to just spend more time with the terminal in our projects. So I'm gonna open up my terminal. And I'm gonna use Linux commands to do this, but honestly, you can just create a new file by opening up VS Code. That's another option. If you have a if you have a code editor like VS Code, you can open up VS Code. It's probably gonna look like this. It's probably gonna look like this. And you can just select new file, and you can type in manifest.csv like this. And then choose, maybe your downloads folder is good for this, and create the file. Okay, there you go, file created. Now, what I'm gonna do though, is I'm gonna use the terminal to do this today, because why not? Let's spend more time with the terminal. And I'm gonna go into my document. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go into my desktop. And I'm gonna use the touch command to create my manifest file. And I'm gonna use touch manifest.csv, and I'm gonna use nano manifest.csv to edit it too. So now we have a manifest file. And let's look at the new files that you've created. And let's select one of them. I'm gonna select a secret mission file 1. I'm only gonna wanna back up this one. Copy the name, and then paste it here so it looks like this. Ooh, This doesn't look too beautiful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste this one here first. And then I'm going to put in the actual file like this. Okay, a secret mission file 1.pdf. If you're wondering what is this thing that you can see up top, this thing is a header for your manifest file. So what it's going to do is when a storage transfer service opens up this manifest file, it's going to read the header first, and it's going to say, oh, okay, I'm going to use this file that's been formatted correctly for cherry picking which files I want to transfer today. So it's kind of like how, yeah, it's almost like this header file to just confirm to storage transfer service that this file is set up for storage transfer service to use and cherry pick, you know, what we're going to be transferring. I hope that's all good. So once it's done, you can write in here, in a project extension, we are doing a selective transfer. Which means we're going to transfer only a select bunch of files from the source. A manifest file works by a manifest file is the shopping list or like the instruction list that storage transfer service is going to use. To identify which files to transfer today. Okay, so let's hit done, and let's go ahead and upload that manifest file into a GCP bucket. Inside Nano, I'm going to save this by pressing Control X, and then pressing Y to save it like this. So I have saved a file called manifest.csv, and I can actually open that file from my desktop for sure. So from my desktop, you can see I've got a file here, manifest.csv, and I created this with Nano in my terminal. How good is that? All right, well, now what we're gonna do though is we're gonna go back into our bucket, you know, where you already have all these cool files here. We're gonna upload the manifest file inside now. So we're gonna select upload, select your desktop, and select that manifest.csv file. So you're uploading that file in there. Okay, so we've uploaded our manifest file, and then we're gonna go ahead and use a shortcut. Do you see this little shortcut inside your bucket? Transfer data. That's right. You can literally transfer data and get a shortcut to the storage transfer service within your bucket. Should we use the shortcut today? Let's use the shortcut and select transfer data in. For the source type, we're going to use Amazon S3. Destination type, it's Google Cloud Storage. And let's select next step. The bucket, do you remember? We're going to use the same bucket name. Like this. And then we're also going to use the same IAM role details. So let's use that same ARN. And then next step, we're going to use the same destination bucket. Run it once. Identify the job. What should we call this job? What should we call this job? I didn't suggest one. 1 second. I'm gonna add this to the project right after this. Okay, the description is going to be set up a selective, secret mission maybe? set up a selective file transfer, data transfer. But the key thing here is we're gonna use a manifest file this time. So let's select manifest file, and it says provide a list of files to transfer via a manifest file. Where is our manifest file? We do have one. All we gotta do is click into our GCS bucket and select our manifest file. Okay, so let's select manifest.csv, choose it, and everything else we can keep, create. Okay, so let's set up this transfer job that uses a manifest file. Let's see how we go. Okay, and you can even select go to job and get taken to your storage transfer job and see how it runs. Okay, the operation is still in progress, so it's not done yet. So in the meantime, oh, thank you so much, Paul. Love the enthusiasm. That's the goal. I'm so excited to hear that, you know, it makes me more excited too. Thank you so much, Paul. All right, I think it's done because I don't see that job processing kind of thing anymore. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm just going to refresh my bucket. So select refresh here for your bucket. Do you see what I see? Do you see what I see? Ta-da! The secret mission file got backed up and not any of the other files. Whoa. Yo, look at that. Because we uploaded 4 files. It should be secret mission file 1, 2, 3, 4 if it's the same kind of backup as before. But it's not. We used the manifest file to tell storage transfer service, hey, let's only back up 1 file. Let's only back up the first one. So storage transfer service did as we asked, which is so sweet. So thank you so much, storage transfer service. That's very helpful. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a screenshot. You can take a screenshot of either the manifest file contents or the file that was transferred. I'm gonna pick the manifest file. I actually quite like the manifest file. I think it's cute, you know? Powerful lines that make a big difference. We love that. Okay, so I am going to take a screenshot like this. Put that in our documentation today. And say, what did you learn about manifest files? To set up a transfer using the manifest file, we uploaded the file into our GCS bucket and then set up a new transfer job that specifically uses the manifest file. Use cases of this include, what are the use cases? Use cases of this include source buckets with a lot of data, and we only want to transfer a few. Okay, so all done, everyone. That is awesome. I'm so excited. We're going to delete all our resources, and then we're going to see the documentation that we've been working hard on creating together. So let's delete the transfer jobs inside our GCP storage transfer service. We're also going to delete the GCS bucket, IAM role, the S3 bucket, and if you did the secret mission like me, let's also delete the manifest file. So where should we start? Well, we're actually right here in the bucket, so let's go ahead and delete the bucket first. Shall we try delete the bucket directly from the bucket list? Do you think that's going to work? Select the bucket, select delete. Let's type delete like this. Enter delete. And off we go. Our bucket is gone. Very, very different from the AWS S3 bucket experience. Do you remember what it's gonna do? Let's say I want to delete this bucket, the entire thing. So I go into the buckets page, put in my bucket, and let's say I want to delete my entire S3 bucket. What's it gonna do? It's not gonna let me delete it. S3 has a strict rule of only deleting empty buckets. So we actually need to empty the entire bucket first, delete all the objects inside it first, and then we can delete the bucket. Very different. This is exciting. Hello. All right, so let's delete the entire bucket this time. So we've got GCS bucket done, we've got S3 bucket done, and now let's set up, let's delete the IAM role. So let's delete that here. And the cool thing about the role is that it includes the trust policy. So all of the policies the trust policy we custom created also gets deleted with it. We don't need to delete that separately. Very, very helpful. Now, what's last is the manifest file. So let's go ahead and delete the manifest file from our local computer. We don't need that. Or if you'd like, you can also delete all of the files that we downloaded and unzipped today as well. So let's delete them all together. Done. I think I had it in my desktop too, so I can delete that too. Done. Doubly done. All done. So deletion finished. We nailed it, team. All right. What were the services we used today? Services we used were Google GCP Cloud Storage, also called GCS. We also used Amazon S3 today. And Google Storage. What do you think I'm going to say next? Transfer service. Oh, and IAM. Key concepts we learned include storage transfers, I would say identity federation. We also learned about manifest files and how to create a GCS bucket. This project took us approximately 2 hours, including demo time. And quiz time. The most challenging part was setting up identity federation. Which required a custom trust policy. I would say it was most rewarding to see a selective file transfer work after using a manifest file. That was pretty cool. So we chose to do this project because we wanted to learn AWS and also GCP. Something that could make learning with Nextweek even better is, I think we had a request today for more quizzes. So I would say more, it's more quizzes. Maybe in the middle of the project? I don't know. Is this a vibe? Do you want that? Let us know in the chat. All done. So here's our wrap-up quiz. Oh, I just realized I've been doing this in a small tab. Thanks so much for your patience, everyone. So let us do our final quiz today. Take the quiz. And it seems like we have a few questions that are a little similar to what we started with. So what is the primary function of S3? Is it A, a service for configuring network settings? What did we use it for today? Was it to manage relational databases, run virtual machines, or to store objects? Now for S3, it was certainly for storing our files. So we're going to pick that. And then what is the key benefit of using a multi-cloud approach? Do you remember what we talked about? Is it D, the fact that it always results in lower costs? Are we now getting higher reliability? Are we exclusively using AWS for compute services in a multi-cloud approach? Are we restricting data to a single cloud provider in a multi-cloud approach? Now, the cool thing about these quizzes is if you get it wrong, you'll always get an explanation for why that's wrong and the opportunity to retake the entire quiz. So how next quizzes work today is that you just need to get everything right in order to refresh the quiz with new questions. So I think for this one, I think we remember that this one is B, high reliability. So we're gonna go for that one. Very nice. H, you're on top of it. What about question 3? What is the purpose of identity federation? Oh, do you remember this, H? I remember you were like, oh, I'm guessing. But what do you think now? Do you have more confidence in what identity federation does? In the context of transferring data between AWS and GCP, we've got option A, establishing a direct network connection. We got B, sharing permanent access keys. We got C, establishing a secure trust relationship between cloud providers. And we've got D, bypassing security measures for easier data transfer. What are we doing here when we set up identity federation? So the correct answer is C. Very, very good. Oh my gosh, I said the answer just at the same time as H. Yeah, A, B, and C are wrong, but why? A, you're not actually setting up a direct network connection. That is something completely different. That's a networking thing, not a permissions thing. B, sharing permanent access keys, not correct. Identity federation is temporary. It gives you temporary access. Are we bypassing security measures? Definitely not. We're just doing a passwordless security measure. So, very nice. Hey, we got Benny from Cameroon in the chat. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you enjoyed this project. It sounds like you just joined us as we were about to finish. So I hope you get to try it out afterwards. This project is free for all to do. And what is the main purpose of Google Cloud Storage Transfer Service? This one. Why do we use that service again? Was it A, to manage virtual machines? Was it B, to transfer data? Was it C, to manage your databases? Or D, deploy your applications? I would laugh if we got this one wrong. I'll be like, hey, it's literally in the title of the project. We're going to be transferring some data. And that's why we use the storage transfer service. And last question. Oh, this one was the hardest one. Why is the subject ID essential when creating a custom trust policy for the IAM role? Why do we use a subject ID? Was it to encrypt the data between being transferred? Was it to configure network settings? Was it to identify the AWS account that's accessing the GCP resources? Was it to verify the request is coming from your GCP project's storage transfer service? What is it? Hey, Benny. Congratulations, by the way, for clearing the CCP certification. And Will G, this is live. Welcome. And while I wait for your response to this question, yeah, oh, we've got some great comments. H is nailing it today. That's totally correct. Let's complete the quiz. We've mastered it, and you can generate a new quiz with new questions, just like that. Because we got a 5 out of 5, we can get newer questions next time, for the next time. That's pretty cool, eh? Oh, damn it. This one is very, very similar, but at least the options are different. The options are different here. That's pretty cool. All right, let's go ahead and get our documentation for today's project. Let's select mission accomplished. And let's get our cool docs. I'm going to be uploading my documentation into my portfolio, and then I'm also going to be downloading it as a PDF so I can upload it and post it in LinkedIn. So let's download our documentation first and foremost, save it to the portfolio. And then there's also the option to save as a PDF. Pretty cool, eh? So I'm gonna save the PDF next, save it in dark mode. And then this is what your project portfolio looks like in your portfolio. I think it's still loading, that's okay. That's cool, it's chill. We're gonna see the LinkedIn post in the meantime. Okay, so this is a post summarizing what you've done today. I hope you're extremely proud of yourself. This looks awesome. You finished building a multi-cloud storage solution. It taught you how organizations use multiple cloud providers for better redundancy and flexibility. And here's what you accomplished, including the secret mission. Pretty cool, eh? To upload your documentation, select more, select add a document, choose a file, and choose the file that got downloaded here. Okay, and you can see your awesome documentation here. Amazing. This is always one of my favorite parts of the project, really, to see my documentation at the end. So satisfying. It's just so satisfying. I love how this is like the S3, the objects uploaded to S3, and then at the bottom here you get to see the objects uploaded to GCS. That's cool. Awesome work, everyone. So thank you so much for doing this project with me today. I had so much fun. I hope you did too. And I'll see you in the next project. I wonder, is there anything else you want to do with multi-cloud? Don't hesitate to add your suggestions in the chat or in the comments, and we'll make sure to check it out. All right, I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you so much for everyone that's stayed up. H, I know it's midnight for you now. Gengara, it's like 4:30 a.m. for you now. So you're all legends and absolute champs for doing this with me at the oddest hours of the day. I truly appreciate it. I can't wait to see you in the next project, and stay well in the meantime. Hope to catch you in the community too. Bye everyone. Thank you so much.